All right, welcome to the first part of project number 4. We're going to take this into 2 stages. The first one, we're going to take a look at writing our own Visual Basic code within the Visual Basic Editor on how we can automate a function. In this case, we're going to automate the sum function. In the second half, we're going to take a look at how we can then take that automation of the sum function and loop it, get it to happen across all 4 of our worksheets inside of this example file. And by the way, I have the example file open in front of you right now. This is the one that comes with this lecture. So do feel free to download this file and follow along with me, or get into the practice exercise lecture and you can practice it there as well. This file is called AutoSumFunctions.xlsx. So first step, we're going to jump into the Visual Basic Editor. We're going to write our own procedure here to automate the sum function. So this is how you do it. First off, I'm going to use my shortcut key to open up the Visual Basic Editor. So on my keyboard, I'm going to press Alt F11. This will open up my Visual Basic Editor. There it is. And because I didn't record anything using the macro recorder, I got to create a new module here. So I'll go up to Insert and Module, and no code in there. So now I'm going to create my procedure. So I'll go back up to Insert, into Procedure. And I'll call this AutoSum. I'm going to leave the rest defaults. Will be a sub procedure. We're going to be public in scope. I'll hit OK. And now I've got the beginnings of my AutoSum procedure that we're going to create here. Now let's think about this for a moment. Before we get any coding happening in here, I want you to think about how would you do this manually? How would you sum up a column of cells if you were to do it just inside the Excel interface manually? So let's think about that. I'm going to get rid of the Visual Basic Editor for just a moment. And I'm sitting here on the East Records worksheet. Now, I want to get a sum of the total expense column. Now, again, how would you do this manually? What would be the steps? What's the data that I actually want to sum up here? Well, I know that I want the total expense column, so I want from F2, right, from that cell right there, to the last cell. Whatever that cell is, that's F20 or F15 or F25 or whatever it is. But I want that range of cells and I want to sum it up right here. Now we need to translate that, sum up that range of cells into Visual Basic. Okay? Now there's a given here. All 4 of these worksheets, which eventually I want to auto sum them all, the total expense column always starts in F2. There it is in F2. There it is in F2. Now the moving target, the part that's going to change, is going to be the last cell. Is it F15? Is it F20? Is it F16? What is it? Well, we need to write the Visual Basic that will, 1, grab the F2 cell, but then 2, we'll find the bottom of that column so that we know our range that we want to sum up. So let's jump back into the Visual Basic window once again. And that's what we're going to write here. So the first part, I'm going to create a variable, and I'm going to call this last cell. And this variable, it's going to hold the string value, and this string or this text value is going to make reference to the last cell's address, whether it's F15 or F20 or whatever that last cell is in the total expense column. Now I'll come back to that in just a moment. Now I'm going to tell my procedure here, when somebody runs this, it's going to jump right to the F2 column or right to the F2 cell. So I'm going to say get my range object, and I'm going to tell it to go to the F2, and I'm going to tell it to select the F2 cell. Now remember, all 4 worksheets, that total expense column begins in F2. That's a given. Okay? Constant, always that way. But now I want to find the last cell. What is it? F12, F15? Again, what's that last cell within that column? So now, if I were to do this back inside the Excel interface, I could do Control and then my down arrow. And that would jump me down to the last cell inside that column, essentially till it found that empty spot. Well, that Control down arrow command, shortcut key that you can use in the Excel interface, I can program it here. Take a look. I can say selection.end, and I'm going to tell it to go XL down. and I'm going to tell it to select it. So this is saying, hey, from F2, which is the selection, go all the way down and select. That's like control down arrow. So now I'm sitting on whatever the last cell is, F12, F15, F20, whatever it is. And now I'm going to say, well, that variable that I created, let's go ahead and make it equal to the active cell's address. And that's it. So now this variable called last cell now holds the address of that last cell in the column. So now I know the beginning, F2, and I know the last cell's address as well. F15, F12, whatever it happens to be. Selection in, XL down. And we can always tell it to go in any direction. We can tell it to go up and left and right. It doesn't matter. We're just telling it to go down because I'm going to find the last cell in that column. Now, I want to build the formula. But where do I want this formula to show up at? Well, I want it to show up right below the last cell. So I'm going to write another command here. We're going to say, let's say a active cell, and I'm going to offset. I'm going to offset 1 row, 0 columns, and I'm going to tell it to select it. So now we're just moving down 1 cell from wherever that XL down took us to. So I'm inside of an empty cell now. And now I'm going to take the active cell and change its value. I'm going to make it equal to this formula. And really all this formula is, it's a sum function, but taking those 2 bits of information, the F2 and the last cell, and concatenating them, combining them. All I'm going to do here is create this fancy little concatenated string to build this sum function. So it's going to look a lot like you would write a standard sum function. Now, I've got the beginnings of my automated sum function here, equals sum F2 colon. Those are given, once again, I'm creating a sum function. I want it to start in cell F2, but I need the other half of the range of cells. Where's that at? Well, that's in the last cell. That's in the last cell variable. So I'm going to concatenate, and I'm going to use the plus symbol here, a string operator, to be able to combine. Oops, that should be the last cell. To be able to combine that previous portion, equals sum F2 colon, plus whatever last cell is equal to, which is the address of the last cell, F15, F20, or whatever. And then I want to combine that with the closing parentheses. And that's it. So we found the first cell, we found the last cell, XL down, you're there, we grabbed the address from that cell. Then we offset 1 cell down, and all I'm doing is changing the value of that cell, putting something in it. And here, I've just got a concatenated string building this formula, combining these different pieces of information into my formula. So let's try this out here. I'm going to go ahead and minimize my Visual Basic Editor for a moment. Let's get back out. I'm going to click away from F2 just so I'm someplace else. And I'm going to go run my procedure. So I'll go to View, to Macros, View Macros. I'll grab my AutoSum procedure there, and I'm going to run it. And this is going to be quick, but I'm going to jump right up to F2, jump down to F whatever, and drop in the formula. And that's it. There's my 266,285. I've now automated the sum there. Simple, just a couple little lines inside of our code to create something a little more dynamic. Doesn't matter how many records you have, because we're using that XL down command to find that last cell in this block of data. Now prepare for the next section here. We're going to see how we can automate what you just did here to go across all 4 of our worksheets. So jump into the next lecture and let's continue this procedure here.